Hey everybody. So we have some contract news here, and this news is a couple days old now, but I haven't had time to do the video on it yet. But it is a pretty major signing, so I think it is worth a video. And it is Brock Nelson has signed a 6-year extension with the New York Islanders. Nelson signed 6 years, $6 million AAV per season. He's coming off the best season of his career by far, where he had 25 goals and 53 points for the Islanders. Really solidified himself as a top 6 player for the New York Islanders and somebody who is very, very important to that team. So, 6-year deal. Nelson is 27 years old, so this locks him up well into his 30s. And it has a mix of a no trade clause and a modified no trade clause throughout the deal. So he would have to okay any move out of New York. So it looks like Nelson is going to be staying a New York Islander for the next 6 years, most likely. And this is obviously a big commitment from the team to Nelson, and obviously a commitment from Nelson to the Islanders. Based on what I've read, I think Nelson really, really likes playing for Barry Trotz, and really likes the culture that has come in New York, with Lamoriello as the GM and Trotz as the coach, and a real a focus on winning hockey and being a playoff team. The Islanders were really surprised a lot of people with how good they were this year. And I think Nelson really likes this new style of hockey that the Islanders have started playing under Trotz and Lamoriello. And he seemed fully committed to staying in New York, and obviously he's a very important player for the Islanders, and they wanted him to stay. So 6-year deal, that's a big contract, $6 million per year. I have to say, I'm not gonna say that the Islanders overpaid for Nelson, but I think I would have been a little more comfortable with maybe 5.25 million per year, something like that. Because while Nelson did have a very good season last year, he had 53 points. That's solid second line numbers. I think probably around 60 is going to be his max. I don't see Brock Nelson. I don't ever see becoming a point per game player or anything like that. I think if you max out Brock Nelson in his prime, and at 27 years old, he is just now about entering his prime. If you max out Brock Nelson, I think he can probably, with a great season, give you 30 and 30, meaning 30 goals, 30 assists for 60 points. I think that's probably about as much as you're ever going to get out of Nelson. He's a very good player, and I like him a lot, and he really helps, fits in well on that Islanders team very well, but he's not a superstar player. And he's certainly not the worst guy making $6 million a year, and I'm not saying it's a bad contract or anything like that. I would have liked to have seen him a little bit closer to maybe a Tom Wilson type contract, which was, a little over $5 million per year. Somewhere between $5 and $5.5 million, I think, would have been the most team-friendly option for the Islanders and maybe the best value for the Islanders. But 6 is not a far stretch, and certainly when Louis Eriksson is making $6 million a year, when David Backes is making $6 million a year, when Milan Lucic is making $7 million a year, this certainly is not a bad contract in the NHL, and Nelson is going to give you a hell of a lot more than any of those 3 players are going to give you. So, again, I would have maybe liked to see the cap hit a little bit lower, but it's fine. $6 million is a nice round number. It's fine. I don't think that's going to be a big deal down the road for the Islanders. And 25 goals, 28 assists last year for 53 points, a very good second line season for Brock Nelson. The only thing, the Islanders had a very good year this year. But I want to, one thing I'm really going to be looking at in the future is, is this who Brock Nelson is? Can he repeatedly do this? Because up to this point, His previous high in points in a season before this year was 45 back in 2016-17. And last season, 2017-18, he only had 35 points and did not reach the 20-goal mark on the year. So that was kind of a down year for Nelson. This is his first time going over the 50-point mark. So I want to see, can he consistently be that 50 to 60 point guy? I think he can be. I think he's a very good player. He goes to the net. He can be physical. He's not a fighter or anything, but he can be physical. He can use his body. He can play along the wall. He goes to the front of the net. He's a 3-zone player. He's not, a liability at any portion of the ice. He's a 3-zone player. I really, really like Brock Nelson and think that, especially on this Islanders team, he fits in very, very well. And this is a great move for the Islanders to lock him up. But we haven't seen him perform at this level repeatedly before. So it's going to be interesting to see next year, now that he has the big contract, now that he's signed and locked up for the foreseeable future, does he come out and have 53, 55, 60 points next year maybe? Because it's going to be an issue for the Islanders if you lock this guy up long term and then he comes out next year and has 35 points again. That is not going to be good. So I think it's really important for Nelson to continue to play at the level that he played this past season. He's just entering his prime at 27 years old, so he should be able to maintain that. Maybe even get a little bit better as he approaches 30. And he is on a good team. He is on a well-coached team by Barry Trotz. He's on a good team that really, plays well together, plays for each other. And they're not a huge offensive team, but they're very good defensively, and he is one of the major players that brings them offense. Obviously, 25 goals at the NHL level is not anything to be ashamed of. That's a good season, and he is an important offensive player for this team. But the only thing would be maybe they could have gotten the cap hit a little bit lower, maybe $5.5 million instead of $6 million, but that is not a big deal. And obviously, he is not the worst $6 million man in the NHL when you look at some of these other contracts that have been handed out, and probably some that will be handed out this summer. I can already tell you there are guys on that free agent list this summer that are going to get contracts that are way too much money. And this one is not way too much money. So I think this is a good contract for Nelson. Obviously, 6 years locks him up in New York long term, provides stability in his life. And obviously, $6 million a year is nothing to complain about for a salary. And for the Islanders, they've got one of their most important top 6 players locked up, a career New York Islander for another 6 years. And at a very reasonable cap hit in today's NHL, where the cap continually goes up every year and player salaries go up with it. So, I feel like $6 million a year is the new $4.5, $5 million a year of a couple of years ago. I think as the cap has gone up, salaries have gone up as well with it, and now we're starting to see some of these. Not star players, but good, very good second line level type players are getting, more money than they ever have before. But Brock Nelson staying in New York, overall I like the contract, and he's a very, very important player for the team coming off his best season as a pro. And we'll see if he can continue that into the future. So that's what I've got on that. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.